Fantastic Four is unfortunately not a fantastic film. In fact, it is rather a bad film, but I wouldn't say it's actually as bad as Superman, which has also recently been released. The thing is, though, I enjoyed Superman more than Fantastic Four, where Superman had a fun, engaging character with a kind of quirky, tongue-in-cheek, kind of lighthearted feel to it. Fantastic Four, there isn't much heart there in terms of the delivery and performances. Now, of course, the actors who play Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, I actually think there are the standouts of this film. The actors that really let this down is Pedro Pascal and whoever played the female Silver Surfer. I didn't get anything out of their performances. In fact, Pedro felt a bit like a plank of wood, where it was hard to believe the character cared about anything.
Are we safe?
I don't know. Our family faces danger that has threatened our planet.
Indeed, there's a moment where the characters reveal a kind of an announcement, and someone in the film says, "I could tell by your face." But my wife, who watched this film with me, her honest reaction was, how could they tell that? His face didn't change. And that's kind of how Pedro acts throughout this whole film. Galactus was fun, big, and intimidating, but unfortunately the underlining plot of what's going on falls flat at the finish line. The actual conflict that is fueling it is interesting. That was one of the few things I was actually invested in and thought the film executed well without compromising on what these heroes would never compromise on. And there's an underlining morality that I want to unpack a bit more in the spoiler section of this review. But as much as I enjoyed that kind of underlining morality that they remain true to, the execution and other peripheral elements of the plot and the primary payoff fall completely flat because of one of the crucial and largest failings this film has. And it's the issue that, unfortunately, mediocre writers cannot write genius characters. There are choices that Reed Richards makes in this film that are bafflingly stupid. He pulls out world-breaking technology seemingly out of his rear end without any kind of difficulty or anything. Like, literally, the technology that they try to use to try and get the payoff of the film, he kind of just, casually does that to the side without even trying, let alone the other world-breaking technologies that I guess the Fantastic Four and Reed Richards has just invented without any justification, build-up, explanation, or what. And when I say world-breaking, without going into spoilers, these technologies are like Star Trek, actually more advanced than Star Trek level technologies, and we're supposed to just, I guess, go along with, okay, I guess Reed Richards can just do it because he's really, really smart. The thing is, though, when it's actually put to test, where he is given something like a decision where we can actually see what he's doing, he is bafflingly stupid. The plan that Reed Richards, the smartest man in the world, decides to go with to try and defeat Galactus is brain dead retarded. And the fact that, well, I don't want to go into spoilers, but I'm getting ahead of myself. It is just utterly stupid, and that's the big failing of the film. The writers don't know how to write smart characters, and I don't want to be mean or overly cynical here, but it gives me the impression that, writers can't really write above their intelligence level. Look, that's me being overly critical. And on top of that, there are sleight of hand things that a writer can do to make a character that is smarter than themselves, like being far more perceptive, because the writer can control everything in the world and can justify this really smart character noticing and coming to conclusions before other people can. And the writer simply knows because they know the end from the beginning. So they can do that sleight of hand if they know how to actually write, basically. But none of that is on display here. Whenever there is a moment where Reed Richards needs to display his intelligence, it is non-existent. In actual fact, it's the opposite, where he makes choices that are truly stupid. And this kind of breaks the film for me and undermines what was a core and interesting conflict that was underpinning this entire film. So add that with the fact that the performance of Pedro Pascal, and I forget the name of the actress who played the Invisible Woman, she wasn't as bad as Pedro. Pedro really just kind of plank of wood and does not carry the film at all when he really should be. she is not as great. Like I said, the Thing and the Human Torch are easily the most enjoyable parts of this film, but they are side characters, essentially, to the core story and plot what's going on. Even though Johnny Storm does play a pivotal role, again, he achieves that through something that he shouldn't be able to achieve. A character, the Thing, even says, how did you do this? You shouldn't be able to do it. Which is right. He's not a genius. He shouldn't be able to do it, but he just does something pretty crazy, which is, again, pivotal to the plot, and he just does it. So even though he's a side character, he does do something very important. Then, as well, with the Silver Surfer Lady being one of the weak points of the film, overall, the film, even though it has a stronger concept to work with than Superman, it does not achieve the entertainment level that Superman did. Fewer problems than Superman, but not nearly as enjoyable, which is why I think this film is going to struggle more than Superman at the box office, and there's going to be less interest in it. Unfortunately, I don't think Marvel has pulled it off in trying to resuscitate the dying MCU. So overall, I would give this film a 4 out of 10, and that's probably being generous. If I was being generous, you might be able to push it to a 5 out of 10 because it is so mediocre on so levels until you actually start to break down some of the crucial, baffling things in the plot, which is what we're going to be getting to right now. We are now going into spoilers, so here is your warning. The film begins with the Fantastic Four having been operating for 4 years. They are popular, they are saving the world. In actual fact, they're so great that most of the countries have demilitarized and gotten rid of their own armies. So, yeah, they're not really in a good position to fight Galactus, but they don't know that because they've launched this project which is peace area. They're great. The Fantastic Four are just solving everything. There was certainly a warning sign with the quality of writing when the game show presenter comes out and says, you all know the story about the Fantastic Four, and then he goes on to tell us the story of the Fantastic Four. It was just like, obviously you're doing this for us, the audience, but it was clunkily done. But the main plot point that the film begins with is that Sue is pregnant, and this is a very big deal. I didn't think they could get pregnant, and their baby is the primary plot device of the film. We're in spoilers now, so Galactus wants the baby. When they confront Galactus, he scans Sue and he says he wants the baby. This leads to an interesting conflict, a conflict I actually was invested in. I was like, okay, what are you going to do now? Because what will they say regarding the sanctity of life, both unborn and born life? And to my satisfaction, the film follows through and errs on the side of the sanctity of life. They will not commit an evil to achieve a greater good in even saving the world. That giving up their child is a non-starter. Now, Reed, he of course considers it because he's a man of numbers, but he never actually goes so far to think that it might be an option. At every point where he is questioned, he says, no, it is not happening, which is good. That is a heroic morality that I'm glad that they didn't subvert. Now, you might disagree with the utilitarian kind of morality perspective that it's okay to sacrifice a person's life. I disagree with that personally myself, and I think for higher moral heroism that they would also not do that, where sacrificing someone else's life who can't choose for themselves, so you're basically offering them up, right, murdering them to save however many people, still is immoral, still is wrong. It's the situation where I would rather die than commit an evil even to achieve what might appear to be a good. The ends justifying the means mentality. But as I said, the film actually portrays that true morality as well. There is an interesting line that Sue gives. I will not sacrifice my child to save the world, but I will not sacrifice this world for my child. I think they were going for something meaningful then without realizing that that actually does contradict itself. I know what they're trying to say there, that even though she's not going to give up her child, she's not going to stop fighting to save the world. It just came off a little clunky. So the fight to save their own child from Galactus is a good, strong conflict that I was starting to get invested in. This could have been the thing to make me like or even love this film, but they fall so flat on the execution with their plans. Because this is where we get to a lot of the negatives of the film. So rewinding back, the baby is on their way, they're having dinner, Johnny and Ben are enjoyable, and the Silver Surfer arrives, and she looks as horrible as you would expect from the trailers. She does the whole Galactus is going to destroy everyone. Johnny chases her and gets the hots for her because she's a naked, sexy alien. Effectively naked. He even says it in the film. And they even kind of make fun of that. Johnny does have a humorous line where he points that out. So there were things that they could have worked with, but overall, Silver Surfer would have worked much better as the original male character, more intimidating, showing stoicism and regret. They try to pull that off with her and kind of manage it, except for the justification in how they do it, which is Johnny Storm learning an entire alien language on his own from a couple of fragments, messages from another planet, and a single sentence that is able to translate originally and use that to decode everything. Now, I could get if Reed Richards does that, but they literally say, no, he's too busy, and Johnny does it. And the thing even says, you can barely read and write. How did you not only translate an entire unknown language, learn effectively how to speak it? It's bonkers. And it is also crucial for what happens with the female Silver Surfer at the end. We will get there. The Fantastic Four, or Reed Richards, reveals that they have the technology to see other solar systems in the galaxy. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands of light years distant, and they can see what is happening right now in real time. And they see many destroyed planets and can even scan the energy of it. This is like beyond Star Trek level technology already, and it's not the only one. It's like, okay, you can do that? Sure. And there are many times in this film where the writers just decide to pull out the most crazy advanced technology that Reed has just made, so easily, purely to serve the purpose of something in the plot. This is lazy writing, where they reconstruct the world building or pull something out of thin air just to service the plot, instead of actually challenging themselves and trying to figure out how they can achieve what they need in the plot while also not breaking the world in the process. Because Reed Richards does have technology now that could easily wipe out Galactus. This is nowhere near the planet-threatening danger that they propose. In actual fact, he just pulls out another technology to attempt to... Actually, no, that is how they defeat Galactus in the end. A technology they just pull out of their rear end, as well as many other applications. Amidst preparing for his baby, saving the world, Reed has also invented not just teleportation, universe-spanning teleportation. A teleporter that can send something to the furthest reaches of the universe. It's like, wow! Voyager would have really liked that technology when they got stranded in the Delta Quadrant. Or was it the Alpha Quadrant? I forget which quadrant, but like what? And transporting a single egg basically sucks the energy out of a city, and then what they try to do, like, they mentioned the energy is so high, and I'm like, yeah, there would be no energy. You would need the energy equivalent of the sun, if not more, to power this thing. And they're just like, no, we'll just conserve energy. Everyone turns their lights off in the evening, and that'll give us a... And look, I'm talking about it. I got to say it now, because the plan to defeat Galactus, or save themselves from Galactus, is to teleport the Earth, the entire planet, to another solar system that Galactus can't find it. This is brain-breaking stuff. And when they said that, I was literally thinking, how are you going to power that? And their answer is, everyone just turns off their lights for that. What? So in scanning these planets that are wherever in the entire galaxy, they can just see and know the energy source to track where the Silver Surfer has flown to, and also where Galactus is. They hop in their spaceship, which is docked just outside the Baxter Building in New York City. This is, like SpaceX larger than Starship, shuttlecraft here, launching off right near the city. But sure. Okay, launches into space, and then they dock with a device that enables interstellar travel. Now, interstellar travel isn't new in the MCU, but it was also kind of, proposed that it was really hard to attain. The aliens have it, but Earthlings, they haven't really cracked that nut yet. Maybe they have now, but not initially. It's really hard. But their interstellar travel seems to work crazy good. And if they can propel matter faster than the speed of light, that's enough energy that you could blow apart a planet. So taking out Galactus at this point should be a cakewalk, but they conveniently forget. This is the issue when you're dealing with either lazy or inexperienced writers, where they don't extrapolate and think about the consequences of the technologies that they are introducing. Faster than light travel technology requires such crazy amounts of energy and can produce such crazy amounts of devastation. Literally, if you're accelerating matter faster than the speed of light, you can destroy a planet, okay? And then they fly to the planet, meet up with Galactus. Galactus says he will spare them if they give them their child, because he feels the child has some cosmic energy that can take away his endless hunger. They say no, good for them. They try and escape. The Silver Surfer chases them. They lure the Silver Surfer to a black hole. Their FTL attachment to their ship gets crushed and destroyed. And look, I kind of like this part because, bottom of the barrel, at least they, acknowledge that there is time dilation near a black hole. And so if they can get, the Silver Surfer close to the black hole, to her, she would leave instantaneously. But for everyone else on Earth, it could take several months, buying them precious time. I kind of like that. And it takes them over a month to get back because they have to deal with time dilation as well. The thing is, though, they lose their FTL attachment thing on their ship. How are they going to get out of that? Well, in the words of Pitch Meeting, super easy, barely an inconvenience. The ship can go faster than light on its own. They try and say, they'll just slingshot around this black hole and get to 0.8 the speed of light. And no. Traveling at 0.8 the speed of light, depending on where you are in the galaxy, will still take years, if not hundreds to thousands of years, depending on the distance, to get back to Earth. Not just a month. No. They literally show the ship jumping to FTL to get back to Earth. And how they lost the thing that they established they need to travel at FTL. Their normal ship can do it because reasons. Sure. This was where the film started to get interesting for me, the kind of conflict and debate over what will they do to save the planet, because Galactus wants the child. Reed and Sue, of course, say no way. I would have liked if the film showed some people agreeing with them. Instead, they kind of show everyone on Earth saying, how dare you not sacrifice your child to this alien god thing to save us, and you should be willing to basically murder your own child to save me. It's like, come on, surely there'll be some people, and I get the conflict, people would be afraid and stuff like that, but surely there'll be a lot of people saying, let's think of plan C, another option, and having faith in Reed to come up with something. Now, Reed hasn't shown any great amount of intelligence here in terms of his actual problem solving and the choices he is making, but he hasn't really done anything brain-breakingly, unbelievably stupid. He's just inventing things wherever and how he needs it. And that's what he does to ultimately solve the problem of Galactus. As I mentioned, he says, we will just teleport the entire Earth. Okay, sure. They need to make really large teleportation devices. But here's another massive issue. Again, I don't know what the writers are thinking, because you don't have to be that smart to see the issue here. They show Galactus's ship arriving in the solar system somewhere near Saturn, okay, and then it takes him months to reach Earth. He can travel faster than light. Why didn't he just appear at Earth? And why is it taking him so long to get from Saturn to Earth? Months, giving everyone on Earth all the time they need to build these large teleportation things. And honestly, they build them still far too quickly for the amount and the size and the complexity of these devices. But I think they're honestly believing that it's a comic book movie. It doesn't need to make sense. They just build giant teleportation devices all around the globe in a month or two. Really, come on. When the writers don't take their world seriously, it's hard for me to take the story seriously and be invested in what's going on. But here's the thing, old cunning Galactus, he might be travelling at a snail's pace for unexplained reasons, but the Silver Surfer lady, she can travel really, really fast, and they know what's up. They know that these are teleporters, and they're trying to get away, so the Silver Surfer comes down and just rams, destroying every single one, with the last one almost getting destroyed, but Johnny Storm flies out and stops her by talking to her in her own language, because remember, he's just deciphered the entire language now. because he can suddenly do that. And then he puts her on a guilt trip for all the worlds that she destroyed and that she's kind of, a hypocrite because she's trying to save her own world. But, what does that really mean, anything, when you've helped genocide all these other planets? She has a bit of a mental breakdown and flies off crying, essentially. And that saved the last teleporter. So what will they do? Now Galactus is on their way, really, really slowly, but is still on his way. He'll get there eventually. What will they do to try and save the day? Well, Reed is a very smart man, you see. He's a very, very, very smart man. He's a genius, old Reed. And so he says, well, what if we lure Galactus onto the teleporter and teleport Galactus onto the other side of the universe? Now, that's a tactic. It's not the worst plan ever, but it's how they go about in executing it. Using their own son as bait. Yeah, Galactus wants the child. In actual fact, if he really wanted the child, he could have just trapped the Fantastic Four when they first confronted him. The fact that he allows them to get free, and yes, the Silver Surfer's trying to stop them, but what is Galactus's powers? He can just beam and stop. He had a tractor beam that grabbed their ship and prevented them from escaping when they first found it. Why didn't Galactus use the tractor beam to stop? Again, remember what I said about technology and being consistent, what they should do? He forgets he has a tractor beam, but he wants the baby, but then doesn't use the tractor beam, they get away. Galactus could have gotten this child many times, really, already, and now it seems like the only way he can get the child is to leave his ship and go walk about through New York City. The thing is, though, he knows what these teleportation devices are. He sent the Silver Surfer to destroy them. And so what do you think Galactus would think when they put the baby in the middle of the teleporter, which is just standing out in the open? That's not a trap. I'm sure that's just completely safe for me to walk over and grab the baby. It is so obviously a trap that you would think Reed would have taken measures to hide it, to, lure him in. But no, it's out in the open. And the fact that Galactus stops and says, clever bugs or something like that, like he just realized something so blatantly obvious, makes both Galactus look like a retard and Reed look like a retard. Because it's blatantly obvious that, yes, teleporter, if you step on there, they can teleport you. You know what it is, Galactus. Why are you doing it? And then they also, with their big brains, think that, if we do a switcheroo, because the baby's in this carrier and we just switch it with an empty carrier, that Galactus isn't going to figure it out, even though we know Galactus can scan for the baby. They show it when they first meet Galactus, and he does it when he lands on Earth the first time to locate the baby on the teleportation platform. And they think, well, he's not going to double check it, he's not going to just scan again. Once we do the old switcheroo, we just need to fireball him in the eyes, problem solved. How do they think that would work? That's relying on Galactus being as stupid as Reed is acting. Or as stupid as the writers of this film. Look, that's mean. I just don't understand how they could make such stupid plot points. Because that is exactly what Galactus did. He sees the teleporter, just scans for the baby. Oh, they hid the baby in the Baxter building. I'll go over here now. And I'm thinking, of course, Reed, are you supposed to be a genius? You didn't think of that? I'm not that smart, and I can see it blatantly as day. So Galactus just waltzes on over, grabs the baby. Sue Storm has a fit, and this could have been a good, powerful moment where a mother sacrifices herself to save her child, where she pushes her power beyond her limit to push Galactus onto the teleporter while everyone else tries to grab the baby. And there's some kind of teamwork-ish going on, but it's all undermined by the fact that this is a stupid setup. We got here through sheer stupidity. And so this is what the characters are doing. Sue pushes Galactus with her powers, but she struggles, so the Thing knocks over a building that kind of pushes Galactus even more. Johnny flies over to turn the teleporter on, because it could only be on for the space of 30 seconds, while Reed uses his stretchy powers to stretch up along buildings to grab his son just right out of Galactus's hand as he falls into the teleporter. But wait! Because he's Galactus, he decides to just pull himself out of the teleporter. Sue is basically dead at this point. She pushed it with all her power. She's got nothing left. No one else can push Galactus in. And then comes in the Silver Surfer, a redemptive Han Solo-ish kind of moment and rams Galactus into the teleporter with herself, taking them away to the other side of the universe. Now, that setup and payoff kind of works with the Silver Surfer, if not for how they got there with Johnny just learning entire language. But if they justified that a little bit better, her arc, the Silver Surfer lady being regretful of what she's doing and deciding to rebel against Galactus, that was consistent and it did ultimately work, even though it wasn't justified properly with how they achieved it. Sue Storm is dead now, but because the baby has some type of cosmic powers that are unexplained, the baby resurrects her. She's alive again, everyone's happy, and that's near the end of the film. They're about to go on that show again, but they get an alert, and so they run away. They have trouble putting in a baby carrier because men dumb, and that's it. 4 years later, the post-credit scene, Sue is reading to their 4-year-old child. She walks out of the room to get another book and she comes back and Dr. Doom, we don't see his face, but he is talking with the child. Ominous foreshadowing, and that's the end of the film. And the film's plot overall is just very stupid, which is a letdown because there was something that they could have worked with. And it was my favourite part of the film, which was the conflict about the child and choosing to protect him and not giving up, and then even having the noble parental sacrifice, the mother sacrificing herself to save the child. Those were all good things. Pedro did not look like he was truly invested or cared. He was mostly a plank of wood throughout the film. I didn't feel like the character cared about what was going on very much, and as a result, I didn't really care about what was going on in the film. It didn't get me invested. It failed at the finish line, and ultimately is a very bland, average to bad film as a result. Still, not as bad on a technical level as Superman, but not as enjoyable as Superman, where I would recommend that film, Fantastic Four. I actually wouldn't. But hey, you might get something out of it more than I did, so perhaps check out some other reviews of the film, make your own judgments, and as always, stay on watch. If you liked this review or appreciated my thoughts, there's a good chance that you'll also like my best-selling novel, Chronicles of Everfall: Shadow of the Conqueror. Over 6,000 people have shared their thoughts on my book, and it has overwhelmingly positive reviews, sitting on a score of 4.6 out of 5 stars. Or 9 out of 10. It is a very meaty epic fantasy where the rules and world building matter a lot, with a story that has made a lot of readers reflect and think. It's available in print, of course, but as well as ebook and audiobook, narrated by two of the best narrators you could find, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding. They're the narrators of The Wheel of Time, Mistborn, Stormlight Archives. And if you're wondering about my own credentials, I'm a student of creative writing for many years. I've also consulted for Brandon Sanderson on Stormlight Archives 4. You can look me up, I'm in the credits. And as you can also tell by this channel, someone who loves to dissect and study storytelling and what makes a good story work, which I apply all those skills in my own book. Kind of putting my money where my mouth is. So do go check it out. There is a link in the description of this video, and thank you for everyone who has watched this review. Hope to see you again.